I'm from this island. It's the most sunny island. It's the most sunny place in Denmark. We have the best potatoes, the nicest people, and we are the most. Well, this is what it says in the tourist brochure. So, yeah, it must be true. It must be true. But we are also the Danish energy island. We won a competition sent out by the ministry on the basis on all the things that Henrik said. The planning back from the oil crisis in the 70s led to an energy development that finally led to the need of a demonstration to see if it was possible to do all the things that we actually planned for. So the minister sent out a competition to find a place where we could demonstrate that a full-scale implementation of renewable energy was possible. And the most obvious place would be an island, because then an island you could monitor and measure every detail and every effect of whatever was done there. All the export and import of kilowatt and liters and products was easy to monitor. We saw this potential, this idea on Samsø. We is then kind of exaggerating a little bit because we didn't see anything. We were so occupied by making our potatoes and doing all the things we did. It was an engineer from the mainland who actually saw this as a potential, and his company was advising other people with environmental changes and building of houses, sustainability and stuff like that. And I think he thought that if we win this concept, if we can be part of this process, it'll give us jobs in the company, which is probably true. And then he said we better call the head of the trade organization or the business organization on Samsø. He was a blacksmith then, and he had been producing a number of small wind turbines and small-scale projects, and he was really entrepreneur in his spirit, and he was known as the goldsmith on Samsø. That was not because he was doing a lot of goldsmith work, because he was very good at sending out invoices and bills for his jobs, and respected and feared for that also. And he was a good guy. He probably thought that this is going to be a good possibility for the local community if we win this, because it'll give us jobs and development and possibilities also in the future, especially for my company, but maybe also for my members. I mean, what's in it for me? That is a very good driver for many things. But we'd better call the mayor. Samsø is an independent municipality. We have been exempted from the structural reform in Denmark, and along with 5 other islands, we are still an independent municipality with our own mayor and a municipal steering committee, which is maybe good. Let's get back to that. It's a good thing to have it in, anyway. So, and the mayor thought, if we win this project, and he didn't read the things that was written with small letters in the bottom of the document, namely that the project was supposed to be based on you could say proven technology, on widespread public participation, whatever that is, and then also on today's subsidy programs, which meant we were not treated, especially on Samsø, with a lot of money to make this project. He didn't see that. So I thought he dreamt about going to Copenhagen and bring back a lot of money to develop this island project, and then be a popular mayor and be re-elected for the next 4 years. And they sent in the proposal. So these 3 persons actually were the widespread public participation in this development. So it was a very much top-down decision to make this project, and then we won it. And they brought back this treasure, this prize, and from then on we had to introduce this to the local population. And from then on, I mean, that is the story where the real trouble started. Okay, so we pledge to give up fossil fuels and convert to 100% renewable energy. Today we're very famous. I mean, I'm promoted in a cartoon in Canada and many other places. Now they make fun out of us. There's actually a chapter of the Simpsons that describes the Samsø project. So we are the Simpsons of energy. I mean, a little naive, and I think Homer he's from Samsø. But there's a lot of people on Samsø we needed to talk to. So we had a lot of meetings where we introduced this. We started actually with a situation where the local slaughterhouse was closed down. The local slaughterhouse was employing 100 direct staff in the slaughterhouse, which was one of the biggest companies on the island. It was closed down, not because it was a bad slaughterhouse, and they did actually have good figures and their accountants, but because of rationalization, and there was a bigger company that took over. They moved the production away from the island. That was a big depression on Samsø. So then we won this project, and everybody kind of said, could we maybe make this project take over some of the employees of the project? That was one of the first things here. So we asked people on Samsø, what do you dream about in the future? What will keep you here on the island, make a living, and because a lot of people started talking about moving, like in any other places on the island. So we started talking about it, not because of the environment. I mean, this is a joke from Denmark. I mean, we have so many naughty Danish stand-ups, and they say all these sort of things. And you know, two guys flying long haul, they're watching the movies, and one says, what do you actually think about CO2? And the other one says, CO2, I don't know. I didn't even see the first one. Well, I think this is a very good picture of the attitude towards CO2 and climate. It doesn't really affect us. I mean, if the sea rise was there and we could actually see the tide was coming up very much further than usual, then we'd probably be worried about it. But in the daily routines, we still have nice weather and long winters and warm summers. But we have a lot of wind here, so we started talking about how to promote this. Already then, we had a lot of objections to wind power, because the turbines was growing in size, and we discussed it. So we learned already from the beginning, we shouldn't talk about wind power in numbers and say we need so much capacity to cover the 100% supply on the island. We should say we have so much resources, like Henrik also said, we need to have a resource plan to see what kind of resources we have to cover the present consumption. How can we convert the biomass, the wind, the solar, and all the potential to the present situation, and then take into account that it can replace the imported oil and gas and electricity. We imported actually for the value of almost, 10 million euros energy to Samsø. Divide that by 4,000 people, that is a very high energy bill, and the per capita, it's a very costly thing to run a community like this. And we are, on the other hand, we are a low income area. So the percentage of our salary that goes to the import of energy is too high. And today it would be growing. So we started talking about resources. And we talked about wind as a potential. It's windy there. I mean, you go to Aran Islands to talk about wind, they know what we're talking about. We get it right in the face all the time. And so we could talk about wind, and we could talk about history also, saying that we have a history of wind power. In the old days, the mills milled the grain, they pumped the water, and they did all sort of hard labor work for us. So they were part of the progress in the community, telling a good story about how we solved problems in the old days. So we tried to start the story about telling what can we learn or what can we use from history in this development, and not say we will have the biggest wind turbine in the world sitting right here out in front of the gate to Samsø. A lot of people would be scared of this project. So, and then we started talking about where we wanted to be in the future. Having a vision is interesting in this perspective also. So the vision was top-down, more or less. It was created by people like Henrik. He's an engineer. Is there any engineers here? I have a problem with engineers. Oh, yeah. Engineers, they are the most arrogant people I know. They think they know everything. And most of the time they do know. which is annoying me a little bit, because I think I know a little bit too, but then they recalculate everything, and that no, it doesn't work. But the good thing is that they can actually make plans, and this top-down plan that was formulated, this master plan of the 10-year development to be 100% self-supplied by renewable energy, was a very good master plan, because we could always ask questions in it. I mean, because we didn't make it, somebody else did. So it was not our plan, but we could actually kind of discuss with it all the time. So the vision was discussing the future with the plan, which was interesting. In the plan, it said we were going to have offshore wind turbines in the future. And people said, yeah, come on. Maybe in your dreams. It is too expensive, too complicated, it won't happen. And then 3 years later, we started the construction, and 5 years later, they were up and running. And they were, for 6 months, they were the biggest offshore wind turbines in the world. And we owned them. We actually built them, and we owned them. We financed this project. The municipality owns 5 out of 10 turbines, and the population owns the rest of them. Which is a really good story, because if we could do this, we could do anything. And also they started generating income, these turbines, and the income from the turbines could then be used for new investments, because it's really difficult to take money out of the public budget to invest in new things, also because it's already tight, the budget. It's very difficult to take money out of a small budget and use for investment. So this was a very good start. Today they are small turbines. But we had to define what was the problem we had to solve, because we couldn't just talk about the solution, but we had to talk about the problem, because we were part of the problem, and if you don't know the problem, you cannot make the solution. So this is my island. Over here we have the mayor, and here we have the capacity of Samsø, and here we have the total consumption of the things we take on. I mean, I like this picture. I use it quite a lot. It's a stupid picture, but it's so clear what we're talking about here. And the mayor has to make a decision on behalf of the citizens here. You can do it the old-fashioned way, have more growth, like they've been doing in America for many years, feed in more energy, pump more oil, and have growth, create new things and more consumption, and then you'll get the wagon going again, employ more people. But that means that you just put weight on the donkey. Then you'll force it down to the ground, and you can have some forward motion. And our solution would be to say that we cannot do that, because then we had to buy the energy. That would kind of bring everything out of balance. But we have to think about how can we unload some of the burdens we have on the wagon. That was a very good discussion, actually. Could we actually save 20% of the present energy consumption? Could we insulate the houses better? Could we do all the things that was needed for this progress? Very good and very healthy discussion. So what did we actually do in the 10 years? Well, on Samsø, the houses, we have about 20 villages, fairly tight neighborhoods, small villages with a couple of kilometers between each little village. And there could be 70 houses or 100 houses or 400 houses in these little villages. And one little village could have his own district heating, or two villages could, in cooperation, make a district heating plant in the middle or just between the two villages, and then feed both villages. All depending on the planning and the budgets and how far away you could send the heating and still make a feasible project. And we estimated that 60% of all houses could have district heating, and this led to these 4 district heating schemes, and we are now more than 75% of all heating is produced from renewable energy sources. And we're having a higher and higher percentage because more and more people who are outside the reach of district heating have heat pumps. They have become very popular, and because we produce all the electricity from the wind turbines, which are here, we have 11 1-megawatt turbines onshore on Samsø, and they produce about 25 million kilowatt hours per year, which is the same as we consume per year. And so we can say we are self-supplied. 100% of all electricity is from wind turbines. That is only possible because we have a grid connection to the mainland. We have a cable over there. So on windy days we export, on calm days we import. But that doesn't happen very often because we also have the 10 offshore turbines. Should have been a little motion picture here, but that you can just dream about a flight over the wind turbines, seeing them. But they are out here in the south of Samsø, and they produce about 80 million kilowatt hours per year, which is equivalent or almost comparable with the energy we consume for transportation. So you can see this is about 3 times the amount of the domestic consumption is transport energy. That's including the ferries and all the tourism. So that is a very heavy consumer. But this is all compensated by the green production from the offshore wind turbine, and all this electricity is exported to the mainland. And then you could say we can claim the CO2 emission or the CO2 reduction by reducing the production from the coal-fired power plants or the gas-fired power plants. So today we have a minus 3.7 tons emission per capita on Samsø. So we're the good guys, but nobody is paying for us, which is a little bit, we have to discuss that, how that can be incorporated in the planning. Can we talk about this? So we can actually say that the mission is complete. We achieved the 100%. We are producing more energy today than we're consuming on the island, the entire island. We have invested a lot of money. That is equivalent to about 60 million euro has been invested in the last 10 years. This has to be divided by 4,000 people. So it's a serious amount of money per capita that's been invested. It's all bank financed, which means that we have been able to prove that we have a what do you call a payback profile of approximately 10 years, which is acceptable for most banks. We have a good public system where the municipality actually make bank guarantees for district heating and other kind of semi-public projects, where because they make a municipal bank guarantee, we can achieve really cheap loans, like I don't know what you call them, mortgage bank loans or long-term loans, so make it cheaper. And because we have cut down on the imported oils, it gives people cheaper energy than they had before, which it's helping what's in it for me. So everybody can say that it's better for me to be on a district heating scheme than to have my own oil furnace. It's also better for me because I know I now buy my fuel from the farmer instead of buying it from an oil sheikh in Saudi Arabia. So I'm actually also feeding his business, which is interesting. So this is the island. See, there's a South Island here and a North Island out here, and then we have a very protected area here. This is a Ramsar International Protected Bird Sanctuary. It's a protected landscape. It's an archaeological protected. It's so protected that you can hardly go to this place. It's like Aran Islands, more or less. You cannot move a stone out there without asking somebody high-ranking. Here we have the central town of Samsø, where the town hall is, and where we have the banks and the Wall Street and the business and the shopping and the downtown red light district. And this is where all the decisions are made. This is where the most intelligent people live, where all the activity is. Out here we have a little community of 200, 300 permanent residents. They have been isolated for many years, and they've been living on their own. They actually say that there's been a doctor out there investigating people and found out that a certain amount of inbred families there. It's been long winters. I live down here in this corner of the island. Every year they invite the politicians to come to a meeting out here in the north part of Ireland, and the mayor and his politicians, they have to go out there, and they take a beating of not being servicing the local needs out here, and they claim that they want more decentralized decisions because they think that all the decisions are taken down here centrally over the heads of people out there in the north. And it's only 15 kilometers from here to there. But it tells you something about communication and communities in general. And I bet that you have the same conditions in Mayo, in wherever I mean, the people who live on the other side of the burden, on the other side of the hill, around the corner, they are a little bit different. So, where are we in general also in Denmark? This is Denmark. If you make a perfect circle around Denmark, Bornholm is not really Danish, it's half Swedish, more or less. And actually on a map, it's usually up here somewhere. So the perfect circle places Samsø right in the center. You can see that. We have always known that on the island, but the rest of Denmark has to be taught. But that's the truth. This should be this is a new Europe with the new member states. If you make this perfect circle again, Samsø is right in the center of Europe. We've actually achieved many European prizes, best practice and European Solar Prize and other things also. So they know in Europe that we are the center of Europe. If I could make this is the world. And I couldn't find a good picture of the universe, but that would probably indicate the same central positions. The serious point of this is that I think that we have suffered from this global thing for many years, where we actually think that we are part of a big global village, where I think that is maybe true for some reasons. It's good to have this global network where we communicate all over the world so we can learn the best of everything in a very fast way. But when it comes to decisions locally, then I think that you are in the center of your own life at all times, and the next wise decision has to be taken from where you are, and not from Copenhagen or not from Brussels or not from anywhere else, because there's a lot of things you can do where you are. And we have a bad habit of exporting the problem to somebody else to say that, well, it doesn't really matter because the Chinese are consuming so much and the Americans, we're only thinning the pollution from our own behavior, which I think it's not. We are in the center of the next good thing to do. How's the timing?
You're fine.
Time for how much?
Number 5.
Okay. So why did we buy into it? Well, we didn't want to save the world, but save ourselves. Survival of the island is really interesting. I mean, I think that is key to the discussion. If you start talking about what is the problems here, people will say, we need jobs, we need better local economy, and then to be independent. Not independent in the traditional way of thinking, like Sarah Palin was saying in America when they had the election campaign over there. They said, we Americans want to be energy independent. Drill more holes and pump more oil and suck. I mean, they wanted to be independent from something from the outside. We don't. We like visitors. We like people from everywhere to come to our island. But independent in the matter of subsidies, whenever you receive subsidies or grants or money from the outside, there's usually a big contract connected to this with a lot of conditions. So your hands are tied. When you receive all this money, then the problem is that you have to follow the money instead of following your own ideas and minds also. So we are more and more depending on things like that. I don't like that. I like the money, but I don't like the other things. Energy democracy is also interesting. You see a lot of big energy companies today making very big decisions on our behalf, and because to service us, and they have a very good, what do you call it? A very strong business attitude towards this. And of course they do it to serve us as customers, but not as members. The problem is that we have, from the old co-op days, we have been reduced to be customers today. So we don't have a saying. It's really difficult to get from the customer's position to the board of directors in the energy companies. And maybe they're wrong. Maybe it's a good idea to kind of go decentralized decision making again, have local decision groups, and include energy democracy. I think that was and that's one of the big reasons for success for the wind turbines in Denmark. And then finally, local activity is interesting. When we started the project, a lot of the contractors, contractors, they have well built and they have a John Deere cap on and they have a lot of diggers and trucks and tractors and stuff like that. And they have a saying that, well, they think if it's business, it's business. It doesn't matter if it's green or black. So in the beginning, they couldn't see the business, so they just thought it's too green and too hippie-oriented. They have a lot of words, these guys, but they don't do anything. Let's see some action. So today, they'll call us in the wintertime and say, well, what about some wind projects, or shouldn't we build a new district heating plant because we have some diggers that's pretty lazy these winter days. So maybe we can make a new project. So it means that, the activity is interesting because it's business. So green is green, meaning that green is dollars or green is development, and they know about that, these guys. So they just have to learn it. So one of the last things I'll say about this is that what we have learned as a value of this project, it's possible because of good planning and experts in planning and politicians who listen to the planners, who can say that this will work if we give them these conditions, these laws, these regulations, and these financial structures. This is one thing that has to be in hand also. But then we go out to the communities to sell it. We have learned that communication is essential. Listen and learn. We have to listen to the community and hear what they say, seriously hear what they say. If they have objections to this, we shouldn't just say that we should overcome the objections, or we should kind of teach them to think different. Maybe they have another solution that's better. Commitment by ownership is essential also. Ownership is the difference from success to failure in the wind turbines, for example. If you invite people to be part owners of a wind turbine, it suddenly looks much better. It sounds better. And it doesn't kill birds anymore. And the deep frequency noise doesn't harm your body anymore. It actually shakes your pocket a little bit with money from the income generated from the turbines. If you don't own shares in it, then there's all sorts of problems with it. I just tell you, can you allow me a little anecdote here? I have a lot of Japanese visitors, and they come over with a very uptight and official and very serious people, and they ask me the question, when I have talked about all these things, but what about the bird problem, Mr. Hermansen? What about the bird problem? And I think, what is the bird problem? Yeah, all the dead birds around the wind turbines. Oh, this problem. No, we solved that already. We have an appointment with a nearby restaurant, and we have the young waiter. He'll be sent out there every morning to collect all these slides birds, and we have a very nice recipe for bird kill. And then they look at me, oh, no, you're pulling our leg now. Yes, I am. And then I said to them, okay, if we can go out to any of the turbines on the island, and if you're in a diameter of 200, 300 meters around the turbine, find one dead bird, I'll pay the lunch and the beer. And they said, okay, that's fine. So then I think, now I made my point here. When we get out to the turbines, you see 12 Japanese running around looking for birds because they're still convinced that they'll be lying there in masses. Sharing by exchanging idea, invest social capital, I already talked about that, and then believe in the economy of the commons. I mean, that's what Seamus Heaney has been writing about. I mean, the commons is what we share, which is not being described on a piece of paper. It's not legal ownership and all these sort of things. It's something we actually own in a community. It's the sea, it can be the wind, it's the sun, but in the old days it was also grazing in the hills, it could be fishing or drinking water and all sort of other things. I think it's interesting to see how much we actually share when it comes to business. And then keep it simple and relevant, and you'll be in business. Thank you very much.